going on, everybody? Welcome back to Redriveraviation. Hope you're having a fantastic day today, and today I have a brand new model airport series here on the channel for you all today. Today we begin updates on the Destin Fort Walton Beach International Airport. I really hope all of you are excited for today's video, as today we jump into a completely new sector here on the channel. I'm so excited to add yet another model airport to the lineup, and this will be a very good one for a variety of reasons. So I'll go ahead and give you a little bit of the backstory, and then we'll go ahead and get into our first airport update of the Destin Fort Walton Beach. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and get started, everybody. So first and foremost, this airport is really cool for a variety of reasons. I'll go into a little bit of history, but I did do an announcement video regarding all of what you need to know about Destin Fort Walton Beach, so feel free to check that one out if you get an opportunity. But getting back into Destin, what really made this airport appealing was Pensacola, as you all know, is an airport right next to Destin. I'll explain a little bit more about the geography momentarily, but the setup is very similar. So they actually have this main concourse building, and then they also have, Pensacola does. So I identified that, and I was like, man, if I'm already going to set up Pensacola with similar gates and, you know, all the equipment and whatnot, why don't I just add a really cool section to the airport? So that's exactly what we have here, and I'll dive into a little bit more of what that is here in a moment. But let's go ahead and get started with a little bit of history so you all understand how we've got here, and then we'll dive into the updates. So first and foremost, Destin Fort Walton Beach Airport actually started as Elgin Air Force Base. So if you don't know, there's a variety of airports in this area. We're in the northwest portion of Florida in the Panhandle. So in this area, you have cities like Pensacola, Destin, and also Panama City, among a few others. So in this region, obviously we have Pensacola, which started all of the air service, and they had the majority of it for quite a long time, and also Panama City a little bit. But they identified that they needed some sort of Air Force base, so that's why they chose north of Destin here with Elgin Air Force Base, and they started operating a variety of military aircraft here after World War II. But in the late 1950s, they actually thought it'd be good to start air service here. So that's exactly what they did with Southern Airways, and they flew DC-3s here. And over the rest of the 1900s, they ended up flying quite a variety of aircraft into Destin here, and they had a really nice array of air traffic, which was super cool. So the airport continued to progress. They had airlines like American, Delta, Northwest, a variety of carriers you would expect in an airport like this, and all that continued nice and dandy and all that, and it was quite wonderful. But obviously, this airport was similar to many others in the region, like Mobile, you know, your Jacksons, whatever city you want to compare it to, and even Pensacola. However, in the mid-2010s, one major development air service-wise completely changed the game for this airport and has increased the airport by nearly double of what it was back in the mid-2010s. Allegiant Air completely changed the game for the city of Destin and Destin Fort Walton Beach International Airport. So what Allegiant did that was super unique is obviously typically Allegiant starts services to places where people want to go. Destin's always been a tourist attraction. People have always flown in here via connecting itineraries and whatnot, but there's never really been a nonstop option from many of these places in the United States. So Allegiant identified that, and they thought, what if we tried some of these really popular cities like Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and others that maybe would be super popular for the Destin market? So that's exactly what Allegiant did. They started some of these upper Midwest cities that they thought maybe those folks would want an alternative option to your Miami, Orlando, Tampa leisure destinations. And they found it to be super successful at that price point. They were able to charge for bags, seat selections, and other fees that completely generated insane revenue for Allegiant. So they continued to do this, and over the 2010s, they started doing this. In 2017, they announced their biggest expansion to get up to 18 total destinations. All of it was super successful. Even my hometown has service to Destin, which is crazy. It's one of our coolest routes, and just continued all the way up until where we are now in 2024 with nearly 40 destinations for Allegiant. So it's absolutely incredible, and it's so cool to think about the progression that this airport has had thanks to Allegiant, so much so they even built them their own pier. This opened in 2022 with 5 gates for Allegiant, which is amazing. During the summer, they need all those gates. So they have really maximized the, you know, setup of Destin. We'll talk about Pensacola more in a little bit, but as of for the opportunity they have here with affordable resources and personnel and whatnot, and they've really turned it into such a unique operation that I'm super excited to highlight throughout this airport series. And again, if you want a more in-depth rundown, feel free to check out the announcement video that will have all of what you need. But nevertheless, this will be a unique airport for my channel for that reason. Also, we'll have a really cool array of military traffic, which I think is going to really add a unique element to the airport. I've always wanted to do some more with military. I think this is a really good introduction as we start to have more and more military aircraft come out from companies like Jet Set Models, kind of hinted right there. But I'll be sure to incorporate as much as I can on the taxiway, and maybe even at some point build additional, hangar facility for them, in addition, what their ramp would look like if we get to the point of having enough aircraft to do that and have it realistic as well. But they have, F-15s, all kinds of cool planes here. So they do testing flights all the time. So we'll definitely get to feature all that. But there is no general aviation or cargo traffic here. It is all either commercial or military. So we'll note that. The airport's really cool. The runway has a catch wire, for example, and a bunch of other unique components that you wouldn't think an airport like this would have. But at the end of the day, it is going to be super cool to evaluate not only the normal air service, but also Allegiant and the military as well. So I think this will be a really great value of time. Once again, I have to set it up all anyway. So I know the introduction was a little bit longer than what I probably would have intended it for it to be, but I really want all you to, become familiar with this if we're going to talk about, what's going on here at the airport and all the various air service development and whatnot. So let's go ahead and briefly talk about what we got, and then we'll get into kind of a formal update, even though this is really an introduction kind of to a degree for the air service. So beginning here with what we got. So obviously, once again, this is the Destin Fort Walton Beach. We're located, I believe, north of Destin by, I think, 15 miles or so. So the airport, obviously very accessible to Destin, and they have a variety of air service. We're going to start with the legacy carriers and kind of go down the list a little bit. So I'm going to go through this as fast as I can. I'll try to do it in under 2 minutes. So American Airlines flies to Charlotte, Dallas, Fort Worth, Washington National, and then seasonal service to Chicago, O'Hare, and Philadelphia. Pretty standard for them, which is great. Avelo flies to New Haven. That is a new air service for 2024, so that's really cool. So we'll get to highlight that. It is a seasonal service. Sun Country Airlines also started service to Minneapolis, St. Paul. I think that was a couple years ago. That is a seasonal service as well. However, it appears that it's went year-round, so very cool to see that too. And then we have Delta Airlines serving Atlanta and Minneapolis, St. Paul, so their aircraft are over there. So we'll talk about those momentarily. And we also have, let's see here, it is Southwest Airlines serving Baltimore, Dallas, Love Field, Nashville year-round, and they also have enhanced flights to Houston Hobby, along with seasonal service to Austin, Chicago Midway, Kansas City, and St. Louis. So we'll talk about all of these throughout today's airport update, as once again, there's quite a few aircraft and, just introducing the airport here a little bit. So this will kind of be an introduction in an airport update 1. And then as we progress through the months, as we become more and more familiar, we'll be able to have a little bit more relaxed formal updates. So that'd be quite nice. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about Allegiant, because they have a wide array. So again, this is all in the announcement video, but just for everybody's knowledge, I'm going to go ahead and run through all the routes. It's pretty cool, and I'll put a route map on the screen as well, so that all you are caught up to speed on where we are. So let's go ahead and get into Allegiant's air service. So Allegiant flies year-round service to Betaville, St. Louis, Cincinnati, Northwest Arkansas, Flint, Michigan, Las Vegas, Newark, and we also have service to Chicago Midway, Grand Rapids, Louisville, and Minneapolis. And then we'll see services returning soon with service to Austin, Bloomington, Boston, Concord, which is Charlotte. Let's see, Clarksburg, West Virginia. We'll have Columbus, Dayton, Ohio, Des Moines, Iowa, Evansville, Indiana. We'll have Huntington and also Indianapolis, Kansas City. We'll have Knoxville, Lexington, Little Rock, Memphis, Nashville, Oklahoma City, Omaha, Peoria, Pittsburgh, Shreveport, Springfield, Tulsa, and Wichita. So it is a really nice group of routes there, and I also did a video on the airport itself, so feel free to check it out if you're interested. But nevertheless, we will go ahead and dive into a little bit of the layout here of the main facility. So this is the original one that they've had for a while. So this is actually broken up into, I guess, 3 concourses, but it's two concourses. They have a ground level of A gates, so it's A1, 2, 3. These are all ground level gates. You can see I have the gate on the ground. So these are ground level gates that they use. These were the Allegiant gates for quite some time, then they outgrew it. So now Sun Country and Avelo, the new low-cost carriers, do park here. So it's great to have their services to the northern regions of Minneapolis and New Haven. So those will be really cool to cover. Looking forward to that. A3, as far as I'm aware, is not being used at this time. I haven't seen anybody use it. So if any of you know, feel free to fill in. I would love to hear. And then we have the B gate. So we have B1 through 6. So that houses our legacy carriers. We have Southwest, which flies what we've talked about. We have Delta at B2 and 3. That's B1. And then we have American at B4, 5, and 6. The actual layout of the gate aprons are not completely 100%. They're fairly close. There are some discrepancies though. So first and foremost, this gate doesn't actually exist at the Destin airport. I just don't know. I guess I could cover it up, but it would kind of look a little awkward. So really the concourse ends here, and then it all kind of stretches out a little bit farther, but it ended up working out pretty well. It's a pretty close replica. This gate is also straight, and then this one is angled a little bit differently. It's fairly minute, but there are some substantial differences. So I did want to note that for anybody that noticed that. So yes, it's not perfect, but it's fairly close, so note that. Another note to have is, let's see, I have another note that I wanted to make over here. This piece is much narrower right here. It's a pretty unique design, so this isn't completely perfect, but it's fairly close, so keep that in mind as well. And once again, we have a nice variety here to go with. So again, I'm sure this gate will be used at some point during the summer. It could be an American overnight gate. I'm not sure what they do with it, but that's currently what we have there. So that's pretty nice. That's all grass over here. And then this is the Allegiant section, which is the 5 gates here at sea. Pretty self-explanatory. We have a narrow concourse here that they built in 2022. It's really nice. It's in the video if you want to check it out. And then we have the 5 gates right here. Allegiant for the most of the year uses they really do a good job of using as many as possible, but during the lower demand months, so that's going to be November through March, they typically will only use 3, so you'll see 2, 3, and 4 mainly used, so we'll have that through the airport updates. And then for the whole summer, pretty much, or peak season rather, March through October, you'll see all 5 of them used, and we'll probably even have some extra ones taxiing, but they really do capitalize on it. So yeah, apologies that took 10 minutes. There's just so much to talk about and explain here at the airport, and we'll become more and more familiar as we continue to do more and more updates. So keep that in mind. Once again, this will be a monthly series, of course, so we'll have plenty of time to evaluate it all. So I hope all of you are excited for it. We're not going to waste any further time and get into our first update of Destin. And yes, I know the baggage loader is on the wrong side. I didn't mean to do that. It just happened when I was moving planes around. So I'll get it fixed for next update. So first and foremost, here at gate B1, we have the Southwest 737-800. Once again, they have a nice variety of services. This aircraft is currently coming in from Baltimore, and now it's going to be heading out to Houston Hobby. We also had St. Louis and Kansas City this month. I'm really glad to start Destin in October because this will give us time to see how the airport goes from, lower demand to higher demand. So most of the Southwest routes won't be back until March or April, so we'll keep our eye on that. But for the moment, we're going to have year-round service to Dallas and Nashville going very consistently, so keep our eye on that. But anyway, looking strong here for this aircraft, and definitely a great first aircraft here for the first update. Delta's Atlanta is the most popular route, despite there being so much competition to some of the smaller cities. So it is a similar concept to Pensacola, however, it is obviously a little bit less. And the gate placement's almost identical at the airports, which is pretty funny. So here we have this Delta 737-900ER. This is heading over to Atlanta today. You'll see this operated multiple times a day. I think just 1 or 2 less frequencies than Pensacola, so definitely impressive. But anyway, a variety of aircraft. They do not get the 757. You'll see 737-900s and quite a few 717s. But anyway, here's this Boeing 737-900ER doing that flight right there. So very nice to see that. What they do have that Pensacola does not is the Minneapolis service on Delta. This was retaliation to Sun Country, and it appears they've been very successful. So here's the Delta Airbus E319 getting ready for Minneapolis-St. Paul today. You can find this operated anywhere between 3 times and a week and daily throughout the year. Right now it is daily, so that's really cool. This will drop back down in November. Really, it's March through, sorry, I want to make sure I get this right, March through October. So I'm really glad to get to highlight the last peak month here of the year because there are some major changes coming up. Our next aircraft is American 737-800. This is heading out to Dallas-Fort Worth International. This is mainline March through April and then goes back to the regional jets. So once again, great to see it here on the mainline 737 aircraft. So it's really cool to see American, very similar to Pensacola. This used to be 145s all the time, and they ended up getting to mainline on it very consistently. So very cool to see what they've done here, and overall it's been quite fun to watch that route accelerate. So excited for what's to come on it, and definitely really cool to see. We have this American Airbus E319 coming in from Charlotte Dulles International. This is the more consistent mainline. You'll find this pretty much for the whole year, although there are a couple months where it's not. So yeah, this is cool to see. It's operated about 5 times a day, where Dallas is operated. I think they operate Dallas about, let me think about this for a moment. I'm pretty sure it's like 4 or 5. So yeah, anyway, great to see this 319 here though, and quite a healthy amount of mainline service here despite all the factors that go into it. Now again, Chicago and Philadelphia are seasonal services here at the airport, so keep that in mind. I wanted to push this up so we can get a little bit better light on some of these. So keep that in mind, but anyway, and they're moving the baggage over, by the way, so don't worry about that. That's what I'm trying to illustrate there, even though I was moving off aircraft that was a mainline gate previously in the last update I did. But anyway, Next up, we have this American Eagle CRJ700 operating in Washington National, so similar service to Pensacola, which is a cool one here. So they have the DCA service, and that's been awesome. Once again, Philadelphia and Chicago, we'll see what happens with those. I also want to mention, I completely forgot, this was the one part I blanked on that I really wanted to mention. United did fly here for a long time. They terminated in 2022, March, due to unsustainable operations, which is kind of an interesting site there. I think they operated to Houston, Chicago, and Dulles probably at that time. But yeah, definitely interesting to see them terminate this city with how much market share it is. So yeah, they focused all their resources into Pensacola, so that's what they've got. So anyway, though, this aircraft's going strong here, and it's heading out to Washington National. So very cool to see that, and we'll definitely highlight it more when we can find a way to not make an update 20 minutes. Now, very fun here to see our two low-cost carriers that are at the A gates. So it's been really cool to see this development, and it's been awesome to see these two carriers. So let's go ahead and get started on the right. With this Avelo 737-800, this is A2. This aircraft's heading out to New Haven today, which is super awesome to see. This will run through early November and then come back in May. So very cool to see Avelo's commitment to the airport, and definitely a great way to get people to the beach. Typically operate twice a week on the 737-800. So great to use this, and I think this is one of the first airports I finally get to use it in consistently. So very happy to have it, and it definitely proved powerful at long last. So very happy about that, and definitely some real thrill to that right there. We also have the Sun Country 737-800 heading out to Minneapolis, St. Paul. Once again, this started as a seasonal service, but has been very, very successful for Sun Country. Caught on very well. So who knows? Is Sun Country going to be the next Allegiant here? No, but it's definitely cool to think about regardless. Anyway, though, this aircraft's heading out to Minneapolis, St. Paul. So very cool to see this, and definitely a huge highlight here at the airport. So this has been a fun one to watch, and we're going to get to watch it for many more months. So I'll choose to focus on it when we have less to talk about in the winter months here. That still doesn't take away from Allegiant, though. They still have a very healthy operation during the winter months. We are wrapping up here for October, though, and we do have a couple routes that won't be back for a while. So let's go ahead and talk about those, and then during the winter months, we'll talk about some of the routes that are here year-round. So once again, they mainly use 2 through 4 in the winter. This will be the one time we'll use gate C1 here until probably March is when I'll bring it back. Just going to keep my eye on the radar, but typically it's 2 through 4 is what they use. So here we go with our first gate, gate C1. We have this Allegiant Air A319, and I got us the Las Vegas Raiders special livery in here. Allegiant typically doesn't have many special liveries at Destin. They typically stay at the bigger operations, so keep that in mind. But I'm a little limited on Allegiant. I would like to get a couple more standard deliveries, even though I do have a nice handful already. So keep that in mind. But anyway, this aircraft is going to be making a flight today, coming in from Columbus and now heading out to Indianapolis. In the future updates, I'll do my best to get it as accurate as possible. So I'll go on Flight Radar and see where an aircraft's coming in from where they're going to. Typically, there's 3 rounds of Allegiant flights a day. And this goes for any Allegiant operation, but Destin's a great example. So you'll have the morning rush, morning push. So one aircraft will leave at like 6, go to wherever, we'll just say Indianapolis, get there at 9, and then come back and get back to here by 12. Then you have the afternoon push. One aircraft will leave at 1 o'clock, go up to wherever, Boston, then get back here by 5 o'clock, and then you have the evening push. So one aircraft will leave at 6, go out to Tulsa, and then come back by 11 o'clock. So we have 3 banks, if you want to call it. I guess they're technically banks. I mean, you can't. Let me know what you all think of that designation. But I mean, it's a turn. So I mean, it's not a turn, but it's obviously kind of like a bank. So I would consider it kind of one. But that's the flow of the aircraft. You'll see a bunch of them leave. Then a bunch of them come back at 12. You'll see them go, and then they'll all come back around 5, 6, 7 o'clock, and then they'll all leave, and then they'll all come back about 11 o'clock. Times obviously vary a little bit, but that's the concept. So anyway, this aircraft's coming in from Columbus and now heading out to Indianapolis. Both of those will be back in February. Now, again, these will be the gates that we'll mainly see. I also want to note that these air stairs are incorrect. They actually have the ramp air stairs that go, one way and then come back up. I believe JetSet has made those, and I will be purchasing those for future updates. So stay on the lookout for those in the 2025 updates. Next, we have this Allegiant A319. This is the older livery, which again, I need to pick up some newer ones again, so I'll be on the lookout. Anyway, this aircraft is currently coming in from Knoxville, and now it's going to be heading over to, let's see here. Let's go with Newark. So Knoxville will return in March, and the rest of the routes for the update are year-round. So very good. I'm really liking this Allegiant operation. Pretty cool. Here we have this Allegiant Airbus A319. This one's in a new livery. This aircraft is currently coming in from Minneapolis, St. Paul, and now it's going to be making a flight to Northwest Arkansas. So very cool to see both of those. Northwest Arkansas is daily during the summer, and it's about twice a week during the winter. Minneapolis typically always twice a week. So very nice. And then we have a couple more aircraft after this. So our last Allegiant airplane is this Airbus A320. This is an old livery again. This aircraft is getting ready to head over to Grand Rapids today and came in from Chicago Midway. Both those have been sustained very well. So as we talk about all these routes to make it a little unique, I will chime in on them. So if you are a local from any of these airports, comment below. I'd love to hear and see where my audience is from. So that'll be fun. Once again, the military presence is really cool here. So we have concourse over here, runway 12, and then over here is the portion of the Air Force Base. So it's pretty cool. I saw some F-15s when I was there. Obviously, I got some F-22s here because that's what was released. So here's some F-22s, and they're currently taxiing out and doing what they do best. So that's what we have here today. So they're looking quite nice. But again, as time goes, I will definitely happily continue to add more military planes in here, and I'll even get, an occasional C-17 or whatever, but expect a bunch of KC-135s and whatnot. So once again, no GA and no cargo. So this will be our big highlight for non-civilian aircraft. And our final aircraft for today's airport update is a Delta 717. They overnight 2 planes, so I thought I would put 2 of them in here for some pretty good variety. As this one's heading out to Atlanta as well. Again, it's the most popular destination. I believe it's 155,000 passengers a year, which is half of what Pensacola is. Pensacola's closer to like 300. So yeah, just crazy to think about that, but that's the realistic demographic that we work with here at the airport. So I really hope all of you enjoyed the first Destin update. I know we went into some substantial detail, so hopefully that was all very informative and helpful to you all. Going forward, we'll obviously focus a little bit more on each and every air service, maybe like every update. As of for the legacy carriers, I'll pick like one of their routes and go a little bit more into it over the next year so we can become familiar with it. And by the time we do that, I'm sure we'll have a bunch of new exciting air service development routes to talk about. But we do have new service to Flint, Michigan, starting for Allegiant next month, November 15th. So that's very exciting. That is a crew base for them, so it makes sense. But hopefully Allegiant will have a big expansion for next summer. Crossing my fingers, that would be so much fun if, they haven't had a big one in a while. But with the facility, I think it would be pretty awesome. So we'll see what they choose to do with their aircraft. I really hope that we have some new routes to talk about for next summer. So in the future updates, we should have more information on that. So stay tuned, but otherwise, all is well here at Destin. Great to have another new airport. Again, it's just so convenient of a setup. I'm going to do Pensacola anyway, so why not maximize it and do Destin? I also thought about Savannah, but it's like double the length, I think, gates-wise. It's the same facility setup. If any of you know of any airports that are about 10 gates that look like this that you would like me to do updates on, please comment below and I will definitely consider it, as I want to maximize any current setups that I have and do airports. That's the reason we have Reno. We've seen what that's done. So definitely want to maximize any setup that I have. So if any of you have any ideas for any of my airports that have similar setups, please let me know in the comments and I will absolutely consider it. But this one was a no-brainer with this and that. So excited for all of it, and I hope each and one of you are as well. But nevertheless, that'll do for today's video. Everybody, thank you all so much for watching. I want to thank each and one of you for watching. My name is Redriveraviation. Take it easy, everybody. Stay safe, trust process. Do you love and love you do. My name is Redriveraviation. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon as Redriveraviation is signing off.